Good evening, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to Cambodia Global Dialogue or Southeast Asia TV. Tonight we're going to be talking about a topic that everyone who are in business will be interested and keen to hear. Taxation, like they say, it's only two sure things, in life, death and tax. I think I prefer to talk about tax than death. But I have the pleasure to have two good friends today, two experts in the field itself, Anthony Galliano, a long-time friend, and KM Tan, who was also a professional in the field. But before I ask you to speak a bit, just a few weeks ago, we have a very successful tax forum organized by your champ. 400 some people show up, and the Director General of Taxation, Excellency Kung Vivo, did a superb job. In fact, he didn't have to stay all that long, but he took the time personally to explain, to share the reform. I thought it was awesome. And today, perhaps it'd be good if we can just share a bit more, because there's 400 people participating, but God knows how many hundreds of thousands of people would want to hear that same message. And that's why I'm glad that you could come today. But anyway, I'll give you the floor to a few minutes to tell a bit the audience of who you are, and then later on I can.
Well, first, thank you for having me back.
Yes.
I think it's been about 2 years.
About 2 years, yes.
And I'm so glad your show has resumed. It's a fantastic show that I watch all the time. First of all, I'm Anthony Galliano. I'm the CEO of Cambodian Investment Management, which is a firm that does accounting, payroll, tax, and corporate finance. I'm also the chairman of the Eurocham Tax Committee. We just held as you said, a major significant event on tax called the Eurocham Tax Forum 2016. We had 420 attendees, but what was also quite amazing is that we had a retention rate. Usually these conferences, people stay in the beginning, hear the good speeches, and sort of move on.
And drink your coffee and then move on.
Right. So especially when you have high-level government officials, they want to hear those speeches and then perhaps move on to. We had something like 380 people for the lunch, and we believe by the end of the day, still between 50 and 60% of the people. So it was a very interesting topic. The organization of this was to make sure we included the government. As a partner. His Excellency Kang Vibol delivered the keynote speech effectively. We had the ambassador from the EU, George Edgar, and we of course had Arnaud Dark, who was our chairman of Eurocham. And then we included what we hoped was the best in the market to deliver presentations and panel discussions, which we wanted to interact with the audience. The audience had a lot of questions.
Oh, believe me, I was
Sometimes
there.
we can't answer them, KM, right? So it was good. One of the great benefits of the conference was we had 15 officials from the tax department, from the GDT, who actually participated in answering questions with the audience and also in the panel discussions. So it was an incredibly fabulous event, and a lot of key outcomes to talk about from that event.
Good. KM Tan?
Right. Thank you, Dr. Savannah. It's my pleasure to be on the show. So in fact, this one, I'm KM Tan. I'm the managing partner of Baker Tilly. I've been in Cambodia for past 16 years.
Oh.
So I've been practicing in this field since year 2000.
Okay.
So in fact, when you're talking about tax reform, I'm the one who really, in fact, appreciate it. So because I just remember those days when we, just as simple as tax payment, we just have a full bunch of money on the table in real.
Yes.
And then we have deployed 10, 20 staff just to hand count the notes. And now with the simple login into the e-portal, you just print out and you just shoot, tax the pay. This is the major improvement that I've been seeing. I think in the past 2 years, I have to give a very high respect to the GDT. They really do a very good reform. It changed the total landscape in the past 2 years. So in fact, as a taxpayer point of view, as a practitioner tax point of view, so we really see the GD is moving to the right direction. But of course, when any reform, there's always a pain.
Yes.
So the process of pain is definitely there. So I think GDT have the pain, taxpayer have the pain. As a practitioner, we also share the pain.
Yes.
But I think definitely we already get through the difficult part. Then I also share with Anthony, because during the forum we have wonderful the panel discussion.
Yeah.
We have wonderful speaker. Also the DG himself makes such an effort to explain one by one how they did it, why they did it, and what is the going forward plan. I think that's wonderful, and then I really hope that this is going to be the regular platform. That in fact GDD is very good that we can interact with them, because they seem to be very far from the normal taxpayer. But imagine on that forum, we have 15 executive levels of GDT high levels management sit with us, answer questions. I think that is really a big commitment and really a big applause to the GDT.
Good. Well, I want to say that as the Cambodia now is moving up to be the low middle income country, and there be naturally less and less development support because of the level of economic development and status of the country. So more and more the government resource will have to be coming from other source, and tax collection is definitely one of the players. But like in anything, it's always two sides of the arm, right? There's a tax collector and there's a taxpayer. And as you said that when you go for reform, it's very painful. But what I appreciate about the tax reform is that it is a will to engage. Because at the end of the day, it's all about communication. A lot of problems stem from miscommunication, misunderstanding, rumor, and everything. But Anthony, let's get back to that, because you play a very good role, because you are the chair of the committee on taxation, right? With your chair. Perhaps you can highlight briefly a bit what's the focus on that? What are the outstanding reform agenda that GT have done so far, and then later on maybe you can cover a bit what are the outstanding issues.
Your CHAM has set up sectorial committees. There's 9 of them. One of them is tax, and the idea is to assist the government and our membership, obviously, in furthering positive steps. And I wouldn't say reform, but just suggestions of what the membership would like to see. The difficulties we have, one, from possibly doing business here, and what we believe would also be beneficial to the country to get further FDI, especially from Europe. So one of the 2 key things I would say as chairman that I've seen in my tenure, is that we first did the white paper. The white paper was a very significant task that we had to do. We were involved in the tax section of the white paper, which laid out several recommendations, quite a few recommendations. This was then combined with all the other sectorial committees to produce the white paper. And I think the tax portion probably had the first starter because the GDT and also the Ministry of Economy and Finance embraced having a dialogue, which is a significant positive step for your chairman, and actually for its members and also for the market. We had a dialogue with His Excellency and his DRs, and it was very productive. You don't expect to have automatic yes, we'll do this, yes, we'll do that. But there were certain things that they embraced, certain things that we had to understand that they were important to keep the way they were. One of the things I think that came out of the tax forum was His Excellency is considering, and I stress considering, abolishing the 1% minimum tax, which is, I understand the government doesn't actually collect profit tax from the majority of taxpayers. That's sort of a safety net, just in case there is some companies that actually do report profit but don't actually have a profit but don't report it. So that 1% is something that the government gets. So His Excellency basically said, if we have transparency, if we have audited financials, we would consider. Certainly.
So it's two-way street.
Yes, and that's absolutely right. I mean, absolutely right. Since the overwhelming percent of taxpayers do not report profit tax, if you want to have that elimination of that benefit, then certainly you have to work for it. And the fact that you have audited financials, which most markets people do, if they're a large enough company or a medium-sized company, then the GDP we're considering abolishing. I think the second thing in terms of what we've done in the tax committee was to have this forum. A lot of preparation was involved. We wanted to make it a major market event, and by the success of the attendance and the participation, it was. So that's been sort of my contribution, and the committee's contribution, obviously, to the Eurocham's tax committee.
Well, Kim, I mean, as a practitioner, for the last 16 years, you have witnessed from your previous anecdote the convenience of moving from a cash-based into a fintech IT thing, which is now the fad of the day now. Everybody talking about fintech automation. What have you seen, in your years in practicing Cambodia? What are the major developments you've seen that the tax department have reformed, particularly under the new leadership of the Director General Hong Bo?
Yes, I think to simplify the matter, I will summarize into 4 points. The 4 main reforms that already they're done by the GDT. The first thing, of course, is the e-registration. And they register all the taxpayer through the electronics, all the records, and require all the updates by taxpayer. And I think that will help them to identify who are the good taxpayer, who are the passive taxpayer, who are the one that newcomer, to make sure that they are identified. I think that is, of course, initially everyone complained about the process, the lengthy process, but I think now it's already on track. So everyone is quite happy. It's a very, we call modern and fast and also convenient service. This is number 1. Number 2 will be the tax payment. It's wonderful jobs. Those days, just like what I explained just now. Now, but with the click of mouse, you can really print out a payment slip and you just do the bank transfer and that payment is done. So I think I'm looking forward for the future, the automation of the also tax payment together with the online filing. That will be the second step, which we already hear heard about the DG. He mentioned about in the forum. So the third point is abolishment of the estimate regime. This is also a major step because this is really to move forward the tax collection from the authority point of view. Now I think they already see the right objective, the right direction.
Explain a bit more on that, because there's to a lot of people out there. It's not that clear, but expand a bit on this.
Sure. Maybe because in the past, the tax regime has separated into 2. One they call estimate regime, one is called real regime. So what you mean estimate regime is meant for the small merchant, like the shop along the street, the handphone shop,
mom and pop.
They are go on estimated tax payment per month. So the tax officer of respective town on the district have to physically collect, assess the tax, and that costs them a lot of resources issue. Like what the DGG said is there's something costing about 80% of resources.
60 to 70% of resources to collect 0.5% of the revenue.
Collection. So I think that is in the past. And what the real regime means is the taxpayer in the VAT system. Everyone issue VAT invoice. And they pay through the VAT input-output system. So in the past there's 2 regime. But now the government already abolished the estimate. So they want to move all taxpayer into the so-called real regime. So it's we call it VAT system. Everything has to be on proper invoicing. So I think that will help them to widen the tax base. Because at the end of the day, the improvement of the tax collection is very much on the people that doing the business on the ground. So I think that is the right direction and right base. I think there's a lot of effort to be done on this area, but it's a very, we call it's a very good move by the GDT on this abolishing on the estimate regime.
So I'm gonna take a break now. And then we'll come back. You go to your 4th point. Because I'm sorry I have to cut you on this thing here. Okay. Well, Kim, I mean, you covered the 3 point. You still have one more point left. But I think perhaps I want to hear a bit from Anthony, because from your experience dealing with a lot of small players also, what's your take on that?
The estimated regime had extraordinary inefficiencies in many levels. First of all, for those that were a registered taxpayer that was dealing with suppliers in the estimated regime, if they weren't effectively registered taxpayers, we had to pay a 15% withholding tax on top of the fee that normally they would charge us.
Yes.
So if somebody came to clean my rug, for instance, as an example, and they weren't a registered taxpayer and they charged me $100, I'd have to pay $115. I'd have to pay their tax.
Yeah, tax. Yeah.
Because so that was that was a penalty on registered taxpayers to deal with non-registered taxpayers. That was one thing. Second thing, it was a very big issue in terms of competitiveness of registered taxpayers versus those that weren't.
Yes.
And the best example I can give you is that you could have a noodle shop, foreign company, for instance, that decided I wanted to be completely legit. So I registered, I pay my withholding tax on rent, I pay VAT, I pay my salary tax, I do all these things I'm required to do. The noodle shop next door would have somebody come in and say, I'll collect $50 from you this month.
Yeah. And that's
the other guy's paying $2,000. So there's a big competitive disadvantage. The estimated regime shielded these those that didn't want to be registered, even though they were actually required to register, because there's a threshold. If you're making, let's say, $5,000 a month in revenue, you should register.
Yeah.
These estimated regime taxpayers, to some extent, not all of them, but were hiding behind the fact that they had this system available.
Yes.
So it's removed the shield, which is great. It's lessened the burden on registered taxpayers to have to pay additional tax for those that don't register, and it's really improved the competitive landscape. And more importantly, as you mentioned, Cam, it's made the GDT more efficient.
Yeah.
So those are the really key. And it was an absolute necessity. I think the community was carping to please change this, and GTT listened, and they did it.
Oh, that's very good. Well, the fourth point.
I think the fourth point is very relevant to the point that you raised. The fourth point is the hot ruling on the implementation or enforcement of the tax invoice format.
Yes. Okay.
This is the according to the notification in the January 2016, all taxpayer. They are required to obtain a tax invoice that according to the GDT prescribed format from the other taxpayer when they consume their goods or services. This in a way that address the issue of what Anthony addressed. But the thing is, the GDT put the burden of the enforcing is a bit on the taxpayer who consume the service and the goods. Why? Because as a registered taxpayer, when you want to buy goods, buy services from your vendor, you have to ensure they issue you proper tax invoice according to the GDT prescribed format. And if you fail to do that, you will be penalized because you will lose the VAT input. You cannot claim the VAT. And the worst part is you will lose the deductibility of the expenses. That means whatever you buy, imagine you just want to sell this cup. You buy this cup at the $100. You want to resell at $150. But just because the supplier, when they bill $100, they couldn't give you proper tax invoice. So your cost of the good is to be excluded from your profit calculation. So end up your $150 selling price is your net profit. Instead of $50.
Oh wow! So and you're taxed on the net profit.
So this is very strong provision. I think the GDT want to put the enforcement partly on the shoulder of the taxpayer themselves. And then of course we do address a lot of issue to GDT during various discussion, working group meeting. And then of course what we feedback is, I understand their point is they just encourage the taxpayer to deal with the taxpayer. But I think that is the part that I think yet to be seen.
It's created a behavioral change. I mean, if you take an example of your own businesses, and I'll give you an example. If I buy paper, we all buy paper in a service business, and before I would just buy the paper, and no VAT, no registered taxpayer, no problem. The invoice would just be a written piece of paper. Now when I buy paper, if it's not a VAT invoice, I won't do business with those people. So in effect, we've become, by that, the fact that we need these invoices, we've now become policemen. And we're telling these vendors, you have to register. They say, well, really have to register? And they're coming back, and these vendors are actually registering and becoming part of the tax system.
So basically, the state is just smart. They pass on the policing aspect to the private sector.
And what a wider net.
And wider net. It's quite interesting. What are the outcomes from the forum that you have noticed?
There's a couple of things that I certainly took back. One of them was certainly the statement from His Excellency Kang Vibol that he sees the GDT as a 20% partner in your business. I mean, that's a very strong statement. The GDT wants their 20% profit tax. And as a consequence, one of the other things he said was the increase in audits. Now we're experiencing this in our business, which is good for our business. We won't take light of that, but the audits have increased almost 400% since 2014. And the GDT is effectively on track to do 3,000 audits this year. So those that have escaped having being audited in the past, it's very likely you'll face an audit this year or next year, or if you haven't already, and you possibly two. We've experienced with our clients certainly 2 audits at one time, doing 2 years at one time. So that is a very difficult process for anybody involved, even the GDT, and it usually will result in some sort of assessment and additional tax because nobody's perfect. So that's improved the coffers of the GDT, and it's also improved the fact that people will now be more. They'll be reluctant not to be compliant because they know they're going to be policed. So that in itself encourages more tax paying. So those were some. The widening of the tax base for sure was clearly a very key outcome. One of the statistics that hit me was that the street-to-street surveys that the GDT is doing. And that's amazing. Actually, I've had clients tell me that the GDT's policing streets 10 o'clock at night, checking restaurants, and just to make sure they have their registration documents. So the GDT came out and said, we will go door to door. We will check that you're actually registered. We will check your constitutive documents. And if you're not registered, we're going to register you. But they still said 50% in a particular tax district was not registered.
You're kidding.
So the upside for additional taxpayers is tremendous, it's significant.
Well, which to me, look, at the end of the day, right, I mean, the state cannot function without revenue. And I always stress, particularly as I mentor the younger entrepreneur, right, that paying tax, aside from being a duty, a legal obligation, is a civic, duty, because you are contributing, to the development of a country infrastructure as a whole, right? How can the state finance a library, a school, whatever? It has to be coming from a tax base, but what I stress more for entrepreneurs is that they have to consider a third, probably the most important point for them, which is it is an investment. Because, Cambodia now is part of ASEAN, right? So a lot of merger acquisition. A lot of companies come into Cambodia, they look to find a partner, they want to buy a share, they want to team up, and guess what? I'm a lawyer. We do due diligence on the legal side. You do financial due diligence, and guess what? They want to see your document, your tax document. You want to sell your share at this much, but when I look at your tax payment this much, how do you can justify? So I think this notion that look, paying tax eventually I make it back, but in far more multiplier effect, it's also a good indication.
I think we have a cultural shift. Cambodia, and again, some of the outcomes was that the tax department is becoming more user-friendly, becoming easier to deal with. I think certainly by widening the tax base, we're trying to bring in the population. There's a huge amount of people out there yet to pay tax, and I think not to have an imbalanced opinion, but it's still, if the statistics say foreigners are paying the majority of tax, and that shouldn't be the case.
Yes.
We've been here a long time. We've become semi-Cambodian, if not Cambodian yet. We want to see the country grow.
Yes.
We don't want to have a donor economy.
Yeah, I agree. I agree totally. After 20-some years, we should not have to be so dependent.
We don't want to rely on Chinese investment or Japanese donors. I mean, we want to have our own tax base that funds our budget. We're almost there, though.
Yes.
We're probably about 80 to 85% there on the tax base to fund our own budget. That's something really to be proud of. Yes.
But I want to add on one I just said earlier, is that you have now the development of the stock market also. And access to finance matter. Access to resource out there matter, particularly through the IPO process, right? And these are not incentive for entrepreneurs who want to grow one day to be a listed company. They got to start, getting their book in order. I think the tax department consider like you have a category, right? The gold category, the silver category, and then the normal category, right? The gold, silver, they have like proper accounting book for 3 years. They have regular taxable supply. They file and pay the tax on time, So these are the sort of thing that motivates them to eventually be fully compliant. Not everybody is fully compliant, but you got to start somewhere, right?
So there's a law on accounting and audit, if I'm correct, which is a sort of a separate law from the taxation laws. But it does require businesses to keep certain records.
Yes. Yeah.
I think I encourage the GDT actually to integrate that law into the tax system, because if you want to audit businesses properly, you need proper balance sheets, profit and loss statements. A business should have that anyway. And I understand the merchants that may be a mom and pop operation. This is not going to be easy for them, but it will be better for businesses. They'll understand their financial position better, and it'll be better for the GDT because they'll have records to access and do a more proper and thorough audit.
Yeah, I think the GDT already getting there in certain extents.
Yeah.
The audit law, in fact, is issued by the Ministry of Economy and Finance under National Accounting Council.
Yes.
So in fact, there's certain benchmark require an enterprise to have the external audit to be done by the member of the Cambodia Institute of CPA and Auditors.
Yes.
So GDT already taking one step on ensuring all the garment industry and footwear industry who want to continue enjoying the 1% tax exemption on their sales, they have to submit their audited financial statement together with tax returns. The 2015 is the first year of enforcement. So in fact the order was given, in fact, is to lodge the audit report by 31st of March 2016.
Yes.
So after the GMAC issued petition to the GDT, they extended to June.
Yes.
So, but they will say that from next year onward, 2016, all the company in the garment and footwear industry, they need to submit by the 31st of March. I think that's the first step.
Yes.
But that will be the largest taxpayer groups. I think the second step, they will go towards the medium. So whoever want to submit the tax return is part of the requirement in the other jurisdiction. The audit is one of the compulsory requirement for the enterprise. Of course. So I think that is the things that I think they're moving one step ahead. From just don't want to jump on the ground that everyone just shocked. So I think they are doing the right thing. But I think to add on that, I think now the hot topic will be tax audit. So tax audit.
And there was a lot of discussion around the CTA.
Yes, CTA.
So there's a committee for tax arbitration.
Yeah, I was about to touch on that committee on tax arbitration. How functional are they?
I think really in nascent stages. But clearly with the expansion.
It's a sort of appeal process, or what?
It definitely is an appeal process.
Okay.
With the significant increase in audits, there's going to be clearly disagreement on outcomes on tax audits. Let's be fair also that the fact that auditors get a percentage of the assessment, effectively, which is creates a little bit sometimes of a
distortion,
mercenary mentality. Sometimes.
Okay.
Not all. I mean, generally, it's a very fair process. But of course, being on a commission creates different incentives. So sometimes tax assessments at the level of the tax branch, there can't be an agreement. So the next step is to go to the GDT. Beyond the GDT, then there's the tax arbitration, the Committee for Tax Arbitration, and beyond that, you could actually go to court. So,
is that right?
Yeah.
It envisioned that going all the way up to the court.
In my experience, it's the tax department generally tries to solve the problem at their level.
Okay.
I mean, look.
But there's a legal framework that enable people to go all the way to court.
Yes.
Interesting.
Interesting. There was a lot of discussion when that will start really functioning thoroughly, because it's in its early stages. It's certainly for much larger companies with larger assessments.
Of course.
They'll be more interested in that.
Well, we're going to take another break, and when we come back, I want to touch something a bit more international, right? How Cambodia would start to deal with the double taxation, and what are the implications for Cambodia as we are so integrated now in the regional economy. All right? Kem Tan, one of the things that in many other countries, a lot of discussion of a country having double taxation agreement or double taxation avoidance agreement. And recently we had one signed with Singapore. My understanding that India is also considering, because at the last summit in ASEAN summit, Prime Minister Modi from India is very keen to push more Indian company to invest in the sub-region, and one of their consideration is how to strike this double tax avoidance agreement. What's your take on that?
I think the double tax agreement in short form we call DTA.
Yes.
So it's very important for countries. So especially Cambodia as a developing country.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good sign they signed with the Singapore Tax Authority.
Yes.
Which is one of the most advanced tax regime in the Southeast Asia.
Yes.
So I think that will set the benchmark for other jurisdictions to sign with Cambodia.
Give me some example of how does it work?
So in fact, the DTA is on top of the tax law of the both countries.
Yes.
They have signed DTA. In fact, it's we call to avoid double taxation.
Yes.
So in fact, just as simple as the simple example, for the country that doing business with the Cambodia without DTA, for any payment, let's say for the overseas subsidiary, to pay a dividends or royalty back home to their holding company, under the current law on taxation of Cambodia, you have to pay withholding tax 14%.
Yes.
So with the DTA in place, that will reduce to 10%. So it's immediate saving of 4%.
Yes.
That will trigger the foreign direct investment into Cambodia. Because they don't need to bother a lot into all the structuring of transaction. They just take it as 10% as the exit tax.
Yes.
So that is very encouraging. And
so
also
you call it exit tax in a way.
Exit tax. So another part will be on we call the capacity building.
Yes.
Because that will encourage the movement of the specialists or professional to the Cambodia. Because with the DTA, so it depends on their residential, it's quite complex. I don't want to elaborate here. But in the way that under current framework without DTA, so the professional, either as individual or also sent by consulting company, may subject to double taxation. When they deducted at source, when they get paid in Cambodia, back home they also got assessment. So with DTA in place, they can eliminate one side.
Yes.
So at least they encourage the movement of expertise from the region. So I think there's from the point of economic point of view and also capacity building point of view, DTA is definitely is very important for a country to grow.
In ASEAN, are there a lot of DTA signed among ASEAN countries?
Yes. I think as Malaysia as an example, I think they have the most DTA with most of their trading partners.
Okay.
So I think that is going to be. I think Malaysia is a close partner to Cambodia. I believe with the Singapore DTA is very compatible in their ASEAN version DTA.
Okay.
So I think GDT are moving into one of the very smart move by signing DTA with Singapore. That already set the benchmark and the milestone.
Do you see eventually in the context of the ASEAN, there will be a ASEAN DTA?
ASEAN DTA, I think the DTA is more like it's quite compatible.
Yes.
Throughout the world. I think the spirit of DTA is, I think ASEAN DTA, I don't see there will be so-called ASEAN DTA.
Yes.
I think they were adopting the similar framework.
Mainly bilateral DTA, but along the same line.
Yes, along the same line.
Okay. Anthony, what's your take on that?
I think it's a necessary, fundamental building block for having interrelated tax systems. You summarize it perfectly, but I mean, for me, the main incentive is getting foreign investment.
Yes.
I mean, to be fair, to treat it fairly versus other countries. We always want to be a destination where FDI wants to come. This is a fundamental building block.
Yeah.
You have to have a DTA with Thailand, the rest of ASEAN, and it is effectively what it means. So you're not unfairly taxed by being in the country.
Indeed. Well, that's good. But looking a bit to the future, what do you see? What are the area you think the DTA, not the DTA, but the Department of Taxation can do to facilitate what you just said? You know, how to make the climate of the doing business climate in Cambodia conducive to attracting more foreign direct investment.
We have a double-edged sword with our tax code.
Okay.
It is extremely simple. And I think the example would be, the book is like this, right? And if you look at the U.S. tax system, maybe you could probably fill the room.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I agree.
So, which was great for our profession, because the more complicated it is, obviously, the more business we get. But
well, in the U.S., forget about doing your own tax. You know, you just go to HR Block and just when they finish printing for you, you just don't know what it is. You just sign and trust that the taxman, the tax preparer, know what the hell's doing.
You know, it's very true. One of the funny things about the U.S. tax system, on a form they'll tell you how long it will take you. So it could be, this form will take you 3 hours to read, prepare, and so forth. So if sometimes you look as a UX taxpayer and you say, I have to fill out these 10 forms, and you kind of say, this is going to take me a month. So it's scary at that point. But the double-edged sword is the tax system being very simple is fantastic in a sense that people understand it better. It's not that complicated. It's easier to do your taxes. On the other hand, being simple is there's not a lot of incentives. So
what do you mean by there's not a lot of incentive?
If you look at typically just on an individual level, let's say if you're saving for your retirement, you can deduct. Corporations can contribute to retirement savings to an employee, and that part will be deductible for the corporation as non-taxable income. Right, so they could deduct it off their revenue. Very simple. Or incentives for big companies to come in and say, we have QIP, which I think
qualify in investment,
which is basic. We have incentives for depreciation acceleration. We have incentives for tax holidays, but again on a very basic level. So you want to have a broader capacity for incentives for companies to come in. You also want to encourage companies to do certain things for their employees. Unfortunately, there's this fringe benefit tax which seems to apply to most companies when you're trying to help your employees, either by giving them food for lunches and certain things like that. So you want to have more employee benefits, and that will help develop the human resource side of our economy as well. So I think the direction that His Excellency is taking in terms of making it easier to do tax, the payment systems, the e-filing, all that is fantastic. Where Cambodia can really, really benefit is broadening incentives.
I think probably the most concern point of the foreign investor, I think the incentive, of course, we don't expect like other jurisdictions come up with the fiscal incentive in terms of tax rebate, all these things to the taxpayer. From here, the very simple, the taxes for the foreign FDI will be withholding tax. So even the QIP give you a tax holiday. You enjoy zero rate tax for the certain years. But imagine if you want to repatriate the profits out of Cambodia,
Yeah.
you still have to pay back the 20% tax
Yes.
when you get it out.
Yes.
So to the foreign investor, the zero tax holiday is like no meaning to them.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, the shareholder looking for the return
Yeah,
from the investment. But of course, I think the government also have the mindset that they want the QIP to reinvest their profits in the country. I think I'm looking forward some balance. We don't expect the total wave, but at least when they repatriate, if QIP maybe they can repatriate at reduced rate, say 10 or whatever. So at least make it we call the affordable exit tax that they're willing to pay for.
There are no time limit for that?
There's no time limit as long as you draw from your so-called profit exempted accounts, the exempted profit account, that you have to pay back. Whenever you're out of country, you pay back the tax that exempted. So that is the one that in fact is quite a major drop, the setback for most of the investors when they read this point.
The Article 20, in fact, they don't know a lot of the foreign investors. I think also probably a holiday on dividend tax as well. So if you're making an investment here in the country and it's quite significant, and you finally get some payoff. The fact that as a foreign investor, if I'm not a resident, I have to pay 14% tax overseas, that doesn't give me an incentive if I have to pay this. Double taxation treaties will eliminate some of that problem. I'd like to see it more on the employee side.
Okay.
Encouraging savings for retirement, child allowances. I mean, all the things we have in the Western countries, which are quite complicated to some degree, but it helps develop the human resource side of our economy.
Okay.
And that's where I think it would be very helpful.
Yeah, I think we're coming to the end of the show, but I do concur with you that right now the Council for Development Cambodia is working with Ministry of Finance to revise the new investment law, and clearly what you just said is part of that consideration, how to make it more conducive, attractive, and based on the lesson learned, of the past. And the work of the General Department of Taxation is definitely a major contribution to do that. So gentlemen, I think it's a pleasure to have you both to elucidate many of this technical issue that for non-accountant, non-tax practitioner is like it's so difficult to understand. But thank you so much for coming. And my last point is that we're making good progress. We should sort of support more the work of the Congribal for taking this active stand to reach out to the private sector. I hope that he will also have other opportunity to reach out also to smaller entrepreneur, that sort of thing. But we are on the right track, and you gentlemen are making some very good contribution, at least in terms of disseminating all this information. So all right. So on that note, Anthony, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes. Okay. So, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, let me just say I hope you have a good, a better, or at least a better understanding on what's happening in the tax reform. It's a lot of good work in place, but there are other work that need to be done, and we can only encourage the Department of Taxation to continue this good work. And as an economy, we need a conducive environment to do business, and having a good tax reform agenda is definitely one of the major attracting point for Cambodia to attract foreign direct investment. So on that note, good night.